Resulem effe beatum, trabeatum radiatum, Venus Deus sedulo Martinum cum preconio, qui terrena parvi pendens, et ad alta se extendens, mundo abre nunciat, in vocrebro militat, o Martine, olim mundi miles, demum verna Christi. Sensulem effe beatus, trabeatum radiatum, Venus Deus sedulo Martinum cum preconio, qui terrena parvi pendens, quod ad alta se extendens, uno abre nunciat, in vocrebro militat, o Martine,
Thank you. I would like to open the second session and the closing ceremony of this IAU General Assembly. And the first order of business is going to be the election of the new members of the Union. And so, as Osborne is coming up to give you the statistics, I would like all of the new members to stand. and Osborne will report on the new membership of the Union. Will the new members please stand? So we can applaud you and we can yell it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, guests, new members of the Union. It's a great pleasure for me to announce that the Executive Committee, upon recommendation from the Nominating Committee, is welcoming 925 new individual members of the Union. This means now that the total number of the Union today is 9,785. And we look forward to being able to welcome several of you also in this audience.
Thank you, Osborne, and welcome to the Union, all the new members. The next small order of business is to appoint the tellers. If I can have screen. These are the people who will be doing the counting for the votes in this General Assembly, and the team of tellers will be led by Virginia Trimble. Virginia has asked us to help her coordinate her troops if everybody who will be voting will just, for practice, hold their yellow card up so she can see where you all are. Okay, thank you. I would now like to invite to the stage two members of the Resolution Committee, Chris Corbally and Jocelyn Bell. The Resolutions Committee was appointed in the previous General Assembly, and Chris and Jocelyn, between them, will be handling the first section of this General Assembly on the scientific resolutions. Chris Corbally.
Good. Could, if you like, put up on the screen what I'm seeing on the laptop computer here, because it gives me orientation to let you know that so I'm chair of the Resolutions Committee and have been well joined by Georges Mellin, Rachel Webster, Jocelyn Bell-Burnell, Matthew Colas, Robert Williams, and Sylvia Torres-Bembert. And in early May we received the 4 resolutions which came through the normal channels of the working groups and the commissions, and we considered those and asked of one a few clarifications, and then we felt together that these were worthy to present to the executive of our recommendation that they should present these resolutions to you. Now, resolutions, you've seen those printed in our newspaper. Resolutions 1, 3 have had a few amendments which appeared in today's newspaper, so we'll be clear on those. So let's go through them one by one and invite the proposer of the first resolution, James Fulton, to come.
There's a French version that's been handed out. I think it would be better if the English version on the screen.
The English version is getting up there. And while Dr. Hilton is coming up,
I'm here.
just to, you have seen these in the newspaper, either the first day or the changes today. So this, just to remind you, is what it's been about. So, perhaps that's really the recommendations. Would you like to say a word?
Sure. There are four recommendations here. The really important ones are number 2 and, to a much lesser extent, number 4. Number 2 is a update, if you will, to the IAU 2000 precession nutation theory. And the main purpose here is for those of us who work at very high accuracies to not have problems as what was originally a linear change to the old IAU theory of precession moved away because of dynamical considerations. And this is meant to work hand in glove with the rest of the notation part of IAU 2008. And it was, the particular theory that was chosen was among a handful of new theories that had come up at the time that the working group was started. The second one, which is the fourth recommendation, was to clear up, previous to this, there were actually two somewhat different ways that you could define the ecliptic. And again, for those of us who work at very high precisions, it made a difference. And this one basically nails down the particular one that we thought was the better of two definitions.
Thank you. Are there any clarifications that anyone needs? Again, if you'd come to a microphone. And we're going to need the house lights up, if you could. So, lights up, please. There seem to be no clarifications. You need the mic.
I would like to call for a vote on Resolution 1. The Executive Committee has deemed that this is a scientific matter, and so is by individual votes. This being a result of the change of statutes that happened in the first plenary session. So, those in favour of Resolution 1, hold up. Those opposed to Resolution 1? Those abstaining? I declare Resolution 1 carried by a clear majority.
And would Nicole Capitaine, as we stroll through the resolution, like to say a word on that?
This resolution has been proposed by the Working Group Nomenclature for Fundamental Astronomy, which was composed of 15 experts, and the purpose is to give a supplement to the IAU Resolution 2000 by two recommendations. One is about terminology issue for harmonizing the name to intermediate, as it was for the celestial intermediate pole, to the origin, which was previously called celestial ephemeris origin. And now it's proposed to call it celestial intermediate origin, and it's the same for the terrestrial part. And the second recommendation is about the orientation of the barycentric celestial reference system, which was defined in previous IAU resolution, to clarify the orientation of this reference system.
Thank you, Nicole.
Are there any clarifications that are needed on this resolution? Do come to a microphone.
Okay, we are ready to vote on Resolution 2, also a scientific issue, so by individual votes. Those in favour? Those opposed? Those abstaining? We have a clear majority. Resolution 2 is carried.
Resolution 3 is also proposed by the same working group, and would Nicole Captain again like to say a word?
So this resolution is a clarification regarding the definition of barycentric dynamical time by providing a definition as a linear function of another coordinate time, which is called TCD. So I cannot enter into the detail, but it is also proposed by the same working group, and it will allow us to realize this time scale with a better accuracy. So that's the purpose of this resolution, to provide a clear definition of terrestrial limit time.
Thank you. Are there any clarifications called for?
This is also a resolution on a scientific issue, and so for individual votes. Those in favour, hold up the yellow card. Any opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. Resolution 3 is carried by a clear majority.
Let's turn to Resolution 4, the endorsement of the Washington Charter for Communicating Astronomy with the Public. And Dr. Ian Robson, like to say a word on this? He's not here. Is there anyone who would like to, who is on the working group, would like to say a word, please? If you just come to a microphone and something brief to orient us. Again, the details were in the newsletter.
Yes, the Washington Charter arose from a meeting in Washington, D.C. in October 2003. The Division 12 Working Group on Communicating Astronomy with the Public took ownership of the Charter last year, and the Charter has been passed by several professional societies around the world, funding agencies, observatories, planetarium society, etc. And I think it's only proper that the IAU endorse the Charter as well.
Good, thank you. Just apologies that we don't have a French version yet of this resolution, but most of the French version would actually be in English because the Charter itself is in English. So this, as you were able to read in the newspaper, is the actual Charter. So are there any clarifications that be called on?
Okay. The Executive Committee has deemed Resolution 4 to be primarily of a scientific nature and will be by individual vote. Those in favour of Resolution 4? Those opposed? Those abstaining? Resolution 4 is carried. I would now like to invite Jocelyn Bell, second member of the Resolution Committee, to handle Resolutions 5 and 6. As Jocelyn is getting prepared, I might remind you this is the resolutions handled by the Resolution Committee, having been submitted either by the Executive or by the other bodies.
Good afternoon. I think this microphone is working okay. Yeah, good, thank you. I'm Jocelyn Bell Burnell. My scientific interest is in neutron stars, but I am a lucky member of the Resolutions Committee, and so I'm facilitating this part of this afternoon's business. I want to start by making sure that we all have the same documents. If you came in by that door and were one of the first people in, you may have been given a white sheet with a resolution in English on it. That white sheet is wrong. It's a good start, isn't it? It's a previous version of the resolution. The definitive English resolution is in today's newspaper on the back page, and we will also have it up on the screen. If you prefer a French version, you should have picked up a white sheet at the door with a French version of the resolution. So I hope now we all have the same text, at least to start with. I'm very quickly going to ask you to amend your copies, but before I get to that, let me say a little bit more about the processes. If you read your newspaper carefully, you will have seen that during the lunch break, we were available in the IAU stand in the exhibit area, and several people came to me there with very sensible suggestions. I have cleared these suggestions with the executive officers and would like now to ask you to make some amendments in your newspaper copy. So you will need a pen or a pencil, and we will get them up on the screen in due course. The first amendment comes at the suggestion of members of Division 3, and I'm grateful to Division 3 for their careful attention throughout this process. If you look at Resolution 5A,
could we have
right,
it?
there we have it on the screen. Excellent. Resolution 5A, Section 2, starts a dwarf planet. Have you found that? Could you put dwarf planet in inverted commas? Put quotation marks around dwarf planet. It is a definition. The same phrase occurs in footnote 2 and it occurs in Resolution 6A near the beginning of 6A. So in 5A Part 2, 5A footnote 2, and 6A, please put inverted commas or quotation marks around dwarf planet. The other amendment that the Executive has agreed following the lunchtime input is in 5A Part 3. Our drafting has not been very clever. At the beginning of 5A, before the words resolution, no, immediately under the words resolution, we talk about planets and other bodies. That could be taken to include satellites. We didn't mean it to include satellites, but it could be read to include satellites. But nowhere else in the resolution as printed do we deal with satellites. So I suggest that in Part 3 of 5A, where it says all other objects, you insert except satellites. And thank you to the people who suggested those points. I think they are a great improvement. Last Tuesday seems a very long time ago. A very, very long time ago. Last Tuesday we had the first version of this resolution coming from the Planet Definition Group via the Executive. We have moved a long way since then. We've covered a lot of paper, but we've travelled a lot of distance as well. I think, to be honest, some members of the Planet Definition Committee are disappointed with where we are now. But I would like to affirm, and I hope you will join me in this, in recognising the work that previous bodies have done. That work has helped us refine our thinking, sharpen our focus. And although we may be in a different place now, that work has been an organic part of our exercise. And I think we should thank all those whose work has helped us get to this point. In a few minutes, I will ask the proposer to come to the podium, and I'm going to ask him to come up because I think it helps you to see who's speaking. I'm going to ask him to come to the podium and speak to this resolution. But before I hand over to him, just one or two more things. There has been a comment, and I think it is a correct comment, that the order in which we have the resolutions printed is not the order in which some countries would do the business. That is true. In some countries you take the amendment first and then the substantive resolution. Division 3 members were particularly concerned with this, and I talked with them during the lunch break. I believe I have convinced them that if we operate in the order we have to, the printed order, we will still end up at the same place. I hope, therefore, I can persuade all of you that we follow the printed order, which is what we must do, and that we will end up in the same place. I don't know what that place is, but whichever route we go, we will end up in the same place. Is the Assembly comfortable with that? We don't have a lot of choice because the reason for printing this material was so that you'd know how we ran the business. And if you are seriously uncomfortable, I'm not sure we can run the business. I think I hear enough yeses that we can start the process. You can always wreck the process by voting no to everything. You have the power. Let me call on Richard Binzel to come up to the platform. Richard Binzel has been a member of the Planetary Definition Committee, and it is the Planetary Definition Committee, along with the Executive, that formally are the proposers of this resolution, and he will speak briefly about this.
Could we get the resolution on the screen, please?
Can we have Resolution 5A?
We have it.
We have it, it's coming. Yeah.
Okay. Resolution 5A applies to our solar system. There are 3 distinct categories. The word planet is strictly defined to be a body rounded by self-gravity, which has cleared its orbital zone. A dwarf planet is defined to be a body rounded by self-gravity, which has not cleared its orbital zone. Smaller bodies that orbit the sun, but which have not been rounded by self-gravity, are called small solar system bodies.
Admirably brief, thank you very much. I would now like to take questions for clarification before we go into wider discussion. In general, can I ask people who wish to speak to come out to a microphone? Can I also ask people who wish to speak to use the same practice that we used on Tuesday night? You are in an elevator. You have as long as it takes to go from one floor to another to make your point. And when I think you have gone on beyond that, I will say something like, floor 2, doors opening. Jay.
For clarification, I think you have to add the except satellites in the first sentence, the preamble, because you say you're defining things in the 3 distinct categories above, but you're really defining 4 because there are satellites.
I think that's right. Yes, thank you, Jay. I think you are right. I think we must put it into the preamble as well. Any other points for clarification? Yes, another one. Thank you.
The inverted commas look right when you see them, but you don't speak them.
Yes.
So, purely from a grammatical point of view, a dwarf planet is still a planet. So, could you not think of a new word which doesn't exist in the dictionary, so that it doesn't have any baggage, and instead of calling it dwarf planet, use some word, since it's an entirely new thing. What you need is a new word rather than combination of old words. And since it's an astronomical union from which schoolmasters, linguists, grammarians are excluded, but a dwarf planet is a planet first, and therefore it's a dwarf planet from the schoolmaster point of view. So could you not think of a term which doesn't need inverted commas,
Thank you.
but adds a new word to the dictionary?
Okay, that's a very valid point, but I think we cannot do it here and now. I know we are infinitely creative, but I still think this is not the body to be coining new terms. I suggest that for the moment we run with dwarf planet in inverted commas. This would be a recommendation for IAU usage. The rest of the world will, who knows? And maybe the rest of the world will evolve a very suitable term. But I think for today's discussion, we need to stick with dwarf planet. Although I accept all the points you make, sir. Yes, sir.
Clarification, what is a satellite, and is Charon a satellite or a dwarf planet?
Well, right at this minute, of course, there is confusion about Charon. If we pass Resolution 5A, Charon is not a planet because it is not the dominant object in its area. It has not cleared the zone around its orbit. If we pass 5A. Right now, I think there's confusion. John?
Two questions of clarification. Actually, to amplify on that one, is Charon a dwarf planet by this resolution? And my other question is Ceres now a dwarf planet by this definition?
If we pass 5A, Ceres is.
Yes. Charon is specifically not discussed or not included. There was a separate resolution at one time proposed regarding it. That resolution has been withdrawn. Ceres, by definition, would become a dwarf planet.
Okay, two people lined up here.
This is a true question with no implied criticism. I was just wondering in Part 1C why the language has been changed from the language that was used on Tuesday, which I think had to do with being the dominant body in its neighborhood.
I can speak to that. We try to make it more understandable in a public jargon, to understand about clearing the neighborhood rather than talking about orbital zones.
Dennis Crabtree. I think each of the points up there, 1, 2, and 3, more or less would stand alone. I would really suggest that we have a vote on each of them separately.
We may, yes, sorry.
Because I think some people will agree with one or more of them, but not all of them. And we'll have a very difficult time making up their mind on how to vote on all three together.
We may perhaps start with the composite, see how we get on. Ian, are you in the line for a microphone? Yes.
Yes, it's a very small point, but since this is such an important resolution, and we are wordsmithing it, solar system bodies in the last part of the resolution, solar system should be hyphenated.
Ken?
I think I understand that the classification of Charon is not included in the resolution, but the question was asked, how does Charon fit into the categorization that's described in the resolution? And if it doesn't fit, then it appears that the structure really isn't adequate.
It's a satellite. As long as it remains a satellite, it's out with this resolution.
A satellite of a dwarf planet.
That is
but
correct.
A satellite.
That would be a correct description.
Yes.
Yes, point of clarification for me. Is a dwarf planet considered a planet?
That is resolution 5B.
At the moment, we are saying there are 3 distinct categories.
So 5A is passed and 5B is not.
In 5A, a dwarf planet is not a planet.
Thank you.
Okay.
My question was already answered.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Just a point of clarification. I believe it's my understanding that the distinction between a satellite and a binary, of which the solar system now has many, is not addressed by this resolution and may have to be addressed at some future time by another resolution.
That is correct.
Yes.
May I ask the committee to explain its rationale behind using the term small solar system bodies instead of something that's been used many years longer, minor planets?
In Division 3, small solar system bodies is a term that's commonly used. The term minor planets may still continue. There's no objection to the use of minor planets. Similarly, one may use asteroids, comets, etc. It's just an umbrella term.
Other clarification? Yes.
Just a formal question. If we have except satellites in the first sentence, why do we need is not a satellite as a condition in the second part?
True, and in an ideal world we would take it out, but a little bit of redundancy that's consistent will not hurt us. Redundancy that's inconsistent will hurt us. Somebody? Yes.
Are you going to stay with 3, or were we going to include a 4th one for satellites?
We are not dealing with satellites today. We have enough.
I want to ask about the phrase or the conditional clause on merely round. That would seem to exclude highly distorted, rapidly rotating planets.
There will be an intelligent application of this definition by a group within IAU Division 3.
What was the logic of putting it in? Because it reads without it.
Well, for example, the Earth is not perfectly round or perfectly spherical because of rotation. So the definition does allow for oblateness.
Yes, but you could just remove the clause. It would be a body that's in hydrostatic equilibrium.
This is also to aid the understanding beyond this auditorium.
Do I understand correctly that we are not anymore entitled, if we accept this resolution, to use the word planet for a planet around another star?
We are dealing with solar system only. We are making no statement about...
Yes, you do, implicitly. In orbit around the Sun. Now, what about an object which is not in orbit around the Sun and still is a planet?
Are you referring to floaters, sir? Or are you talking about extrasolar planets?
I'm talking about extrasolar planet.
You are or you are not? You are. You are talking about extrasolar planets. You will notice that the heading of the resolution is Definition of a Planet in the Solar System. We originally hoped to be able to define planet more widely, but we found it too difficult to manage appropriate wording on the timescale that we had. So today we are talking only about objects in the solar system. But we do know that there are other planets beyond our solar system. We're just not looking at them today. Okay, I think we've got all the points of clarification. No, we have one more.
To be consistent, there should be quotation marks around the planet, as strange as it may seem, if there's quotation marks around dwarf planet.
May I ask one question? Is Neptune a planet? Because
one moment, please, just till I understand this, and then I'll come to you. You're saying there should be quotation marks around...
Is Neptune a planet? Because everybody knows that Neptune's orbit is crossed by Pluto's.
Could you wait a moment, please, sir, while this gentleman helps me to understand what he is saying?
So if we're using quotation marks for definition in 2, we should put quotation marks around planet in 1.
Yes, but it's a single word, so there's less of an issue there. Yeah, the quotations in 2 are to make sure that dwarf and planet are joined together, held together. I'm sorry, sir. Could you tell me now again what you were saying?
Yes, everybody knows that the planet orbit of Neptune and Pluto crosses.
Yes.
So in 1C, in the point 1C, it is not clear whether Neptune is a planet. Because in 1C has a neighborhood around its orbit, and Neptune didn't clear the neighborhood around its orbit.
Footnote 1.
Yeah, we have defined Neptune to be a planet, and you could also say it is the dominant object in that area. Yes, sir.
I would like to point out a certain issue of wordsmithing. That is in regard to if resolutions 5A and 5B would be passed, then the heading of 5A saying that the objects are divided into three distinct categories would not apply, as we would have just planets and small solar system bodies.
Could you hold that till we get to 5B? I think 5A is okay.
Yes, I could.
In that respect. Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Well, last Friday you mentioned that we are not voting on the footnotes.
So according to that gentleman, that Neptune is maybe not a planet based on your definition, you are now referring to the footnote to say yes. So either we vote the footnote as well or not, but you can't just decide when it's in favor of your solution or not.
Let me answer your question. Neptune controls the objects beyond it in a 3-to-2 resonance. This illustrates Neptune's dominance of that zone.
But I think the gentleman had a different question, and I'm sorry, in my introduction I forgot to mention this. We were at one point trying to say that the footnotes are not part of the resolution. I think that position is not tenable. It is a stupid position. Therefore, the footnotes are now part of the resolution. And my apologies for forgetting to say that in the introduction. Please look at the footnotes as well as the main text. Is that clear now? Yeah, thank you. Right. Sir?
Yeah, I'd like to come back to this issue of the nearly round shape and also the formulation of clearing the neighborhood. I don't think this resolution should be formulated such that it's easier to explain them to the public. I think they should be formulated such that they're scientifically satisfying. And then how we explain what hydrostatic equilibrium means to the public is a second matter. So I would agree that we should remove the nearly round and this business about clearing the neighborhood also take the old formulation.
The Planetary Definition Committee was charged with the task to come up with a definition that was understandable to the public and that had cultural significance. I would decline to remove those words.
Ma'am?
I think that a good definition is one that allows you to recognize that this is what you're seeing and allows you to distinguish it from things that don't belong in the same class. I think this is really getting quite close to that. I have one small concern though. I can think of 3 or 4 ways to define for an elementary astronomy class dominance in its neighborhood. I'm not exactly sure I could explain to such a class how you observe that it has cleared its area. Now that just may be that I'm not a dynamical astronomer, but that's a historical event that we can't actually observe directly.
I would give you 2 examples. The first is Ceres residing within the asteroid belt. The second is Pluto residing within the Kuiper belt.
As examples of objects that have not cleared.
These would be objects that have not cleared their zones. So I think the asteroid belt, which is the most well understood, most well known even by kids who see the movies, would understand that that zone has not been cleared.
Some of these issues are hard to define, and I think will in effect be defined by our common sense and our existing positions. How round is round? What does cleared its orbit mean? Mostly we can judge that for ourselves. Okay, sometimes there will be issues, but mostly we can judge it. Sir?
First of all, I'd like to point the inconsistency between footnote 1 in terms of Saturn, because Saturn seems to be, from definition, coming as a dwarf planet, and there it's listed as part of the planets. The most important point here, though, is the one which was brought earlier to me by Dennis Dragons. How do we know that this was this planet that cleared its neighborhood? Maybe we should...
The definitions are based on the solar system as we observe it today.
But that's history. We don't know who came and cleared the neighborhood. We don't know what the migration was.
And a General Assembly 3 billion years ago would have defined it differently. A General Assembly in a few billion years in the future may define things differently. This is about definitions of the planets as we observe them today.
So my conclusion on that, sorry about the elevator, I'm sort of pushing the next button, is that there is so much left in this resolution to the common sense that I would propose to drop all the resolutions and leave footnote number 1.
just like to remark, also coming back to the question of clearing out this neighborhood or whether it is the dominant population partner, that we don't talk about extrasolar planets now, but when we talk about them, it would be much easier to define them as the dominant part in the population zone instead of having cleared out their environment. So looking forward, it would be easier to connect that resolution to the extrasolar planet resolution.
Thank you. Yes, please, sir.
Just a very small comment. I would suppose that orbit in these resolutions suppose what's in various dictionaries, meaning a bound orbit. So I just have a question regarding the third point. Actually, if supposedly a comet would go off in a hyperbolic orbit, it loses the status of a small solar system body, and maybe similar for our artificial satellites, artificial missions, for example, that go out of the system.
If they are hyperbolic, they have left our solar system.
Or they will leave our solar system, yes. Okay. Are there other comments people wish to make on this resolution before we turn to voting? One more.
So this is a comment, not a question. It's a sort of general comment. Michael Rowan Robinson, UK National Representative. I'm not a planetary scientist, and so I'm speaking for the wider group of astronomers here, perhaps, who, many of whom have been fascinated by the debate this week and have learned a lot about the solar system that we never knew before. Like many people, I have been very unhappy with the process. A motion was sprung on us last Wednesday, which had already been issued to the world's media. And at Tuesday's meeting, lunchtime meeting, of course, there was a mood in this room that the executive should be punished for this, I think. However, I think since then the executive have been listening to the community and have come up with something which is sensible, acceptable, streamlined, and so on, much simplified. And I think it's now essential that we do back this main motion. I mean, 5B, fine, one can take different points of view on that. But it's important that we come away from this meeting with a positive resolution, and not, as the last speaker suggested, only footnote 1. Because it would be disastrous for astronomy if we come away from the General Assembly with nothing. We will be regarded as complete idiots. And even if it's the executive's fault if that happens, the rest of us will pay the consequences. And so it's very important that we do overwhelmingly, I think, support this motion. Last point, whatever we decide after we've gone through all the various other motions, some of which seem relatively harmless, we will have to sell this to the public and to the media. All of us are likely to find ourselves involved at various times with doing this. And at that point, we have to explain how interesting the solar system has become, and also that there's more than one criterion for defining a planet. We can define it as something that's dynamically dominant, or we can define it structurally as something that's in hydrostatic equilibrium. And we have to put everything in a positive light, that we've learned new things, that there are new objects being discovered. In a few years, there may be 40 of these dwarf planets. So I think we all, whatever the past history of this process that we may feel resentful about, we have to support this motion overwhelmingly, I think. And then we have to go away and sell it in a very positive way. The glass is filling. The fact that Pluto's been demoted is not so important.
Thank you. I think we've now reached the stage, more or less, where we're ready to vote. We could, of course, continue taking contributions for, I think, a long, long time, but we have other business. Could we move to the vote? Can I turn the chair to the chair, please, for conducting the vote? Well,
Thank you. Thank you, Jocelyn.
We will now take the vote on Resolution 5A. It is, of course, a scientific matter, and this will be a vote by individual members. So, will those members in favour hold up the yellow card? I think let's get a quick check. Those against, we'll count if necessary. Those abstaining? I believe we have a clear majority, but I'm happy to count if people wish me to do a count. You want me to do the no's and abstentions? Then I believe the resolution is clearly carried.
Thank you. Which brings us to Resolution 5B, which looks a very small change.
Could we have the other screen up with that 5B?
5B involves inserting one word. Surely not a serious matter. However, for the benefit of non-astronomers present, I want to do a little piece of teaching which demonstrates that resolutions are non-linear and small changes have big effects. Excuse me while I dive under the table. At the moment, right now, having passed Resolution 5A, we have planets, the 8 that are named. We have dwarf planets in two kinds, excuse the pun series. And we have small astronomical bodies that are non-spherical. We have 3 distinct categories. And that will stand whatever... No, that's not a true statement. If we reject everything else this afternoon, that is what will stand. If, however, we add the word classical to this group, then we have adjective planets, different adjective planets. And it could be argued that what we are doing is creating an umbrella category called planets, under which the planets and the dwarf planets fit. And if we do this, then that pertains. I think that's a fair representation of what we are doing if we add the word classical to the definition of planet. But I'd like now to turn to Richard Binzel to formally introduce this bit of the resolution.
Thank you. Using the words classical planets is a compromise that allows for more than one kind of planet in our universe. Yet advocates of the clearing the zone model have refused this term. They will tell you why. Listen carefully. The word planet is being restricted to just one narrow point of view. Their restriction means that a dwarf planet is not a planet. It would be like saying a dwarf star is not a star. We can fix this. Will we have too many planets? Will we confuse the public? No. It's easy. The distinction is as simple as an umbrella. You have 2 sides under the umbrella. They're the familiar 8 classical planets and the multitude of dwarf planets that we're discovering today. And it's those discoveries that are the excitement that bring us here. We want to emphasize that excitement. As for Pluto, we would be very clear. Pluto is a planet, but it is in the dwarf planet category. This is exactly the kind of cultural consideration that the Planet Definition Committee was asked for. So please pass 5B. The word planet must be shared. Thank you.
The way we are running this bit of the session is to have a strong speech for, a short one, and an equally short, strong speech against. And after that, I will give you a minute or two to think, because you've had a lot to consider, and then we will vote. It's fairly straightforward in the sense you want the word in or you don't want the word in, and there are no nuances on that. Could I now call on Professor Mark Bailey to speak equally briefly against? Do you want the stage, Mark, in the interests of equity?
Thank you. The key issue is the definition of the concept planet. This is a very important decision to be taken by the IAU. Resolution 5A is very close to the version agreed by consensus at the information meeting on Tuesday evening. There it was made clear that 3 distinct categories were being defined: planet, dwarf planet, and small solar system body. The amendment proposes to insert the adjective classical in front of the word planet. It is inconsistent with the first paragraph of the resolution, as has been mentioned, and transforms 3 distinct categories into 2 classes, namely planets and the rest, and that too has been made clear. The amendment further divides the planet class into 2 subcategories, namely classical planet and dwarf planet. In answer to the question, how many planets in the solar system, Resolution 5A gives the clear answer 8. Resolution 5B implies at least 11, and soon several dozen. Both Pluto and Ceres become planets, and probably several main belt asteroids and known TNOs as well. Resolution 5B not only removes a fundamental dynamical distinction for a planet, it is confusing and internally inconsistent. In my view, it should be rejected. Thank you.
Now pause for a minute or two for you to reflect on what you've heard. You may wish to read again what's on the back page of the newsletter. 250 words for and against the word classical. And then I'll turn to the chair for the vote.
I have a comment against, Jocelyn, may I?
I prefer just to carry along the protocol we've established.
Okay.
I think people are ready to vote.
Well done. So you have clearly heard the difference between voting for this amendment and not voting for this amendment. This is a genuine request for you to exercise your judgment as individual members on this, which is clearly a scientific issue. So we will now take the vote. Those who are in favour of Amendment 5B, raise your cards. We will take a count on this one.
If you're voting in favor, please stand.
Please stand, those who are voting in favour. It will help the tellers.
It will help the tellers enormously. And my 5 tellers, if you're still alive and still at your stations, go down the rows, counting the rows as you go. When you see that your row has been counted, sit down. There will be 1 teller in the far aisle doing that section, 2 tellers doing each of the big other sections. Whoever is doing the far section, are you there? I thought you were doing the far section. I thought you were doing... Who is doing that section? Please stand again.
Virginia has requested that we recount, so will you put your card up and continue standing? Into the cost of electronic voting, but decided that the money was better spent on scientific meetings.
Mr. President, we report 91 votes in favor. 91.
We will now count those who are against Resolution Amendment 5B. Okay.
I think, Mr. President, a further vote is further count is not honestly needed.
Okay. Okay, there's a clear, we'll take the number abstaining. Then it's clear that Resolution 5B is not passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. We need to rearrange the stage. Resolution 6. We start with 6A, vote on it, and then we do 6B. 6A is concerned with this area of the demonstration, and it makes this distinction.
6A on the screen, please.
In particular, 6A is concerned with Pluto and Pluto-like objects. There's a large attendance here today, and we're all well aware that there's been interest in this issue from all around the world. The focus is Pluto. We're fortunate to work in a subject where there is great public interest and where there is public support. And it behoves us to be conscious of that public support. This is where you are conscious of that public. The recommendation is that we consider Pluto and other similar trans-Neptunian objects to be in a special class, of which Pluto was the first discovered. That's the gist of Resolution 6A. I'll now turn formally to Richard Binzel yet again for the formal presentation of this resolution.
Resolution 6A recognizes the scientific significance of the discovery of Pluto, which heralded our advancing knowledge of the outer solar system. Many more Plutos certainly remain to be discovered, and this is a way to coherently group them as a distinct class.
Thank you. We can take questions for clarification. Wonderful. Oh yes, a question, sir? Come to the microphone first. Yes?
I believe that Part C, items 1 and 2 in the Resolution 5A that was just passed, was intended to draw a distinction between planets and dwarf planets. And clearly, Ceres could be interpreted as a dwarf planet under that definition.
Yes.
But in the case of Pluto, I don't know that it is quite so clear.
Pluto is a dwarf planet.
Well, under your definition, I don't think that it is so clear, because I think one could argue that Pluto has cleared the immediate vicinity of its own orbit. And so therefore, I would recommend defeat of this particular resolution 6A. And as this resolution was introduced with the paradigm of maintaining public support and maintaining tradition of history, I would further recommend that footnote 1 of 5A be amended to include Pluto.
We cannot at this stage amend 5A in this meeting. We have to run through the programme as printed. We are looking at Resolution 6A. Do you have a question for clarification?
One question. What was the actual wording of the resolution in Manchester describing Pluto as a planet that was passed by the IAU?
There was no resolution in Manchester regarding Pluto. There was an IAU public statement which said there is no change in the status of Pluto. That was a 1999 statement.
Thank you.
Yes, somebody in this microphone, sir?
Just a question on how this new prototype category is actually defined? In other words, how is it distinct from other trans-Newtonian objects?
You have to be, first you have to qualify in the dwarf planet category, and secondly you have to be trans-Neptunian. So trans-Neptunian dwarf planets would be within this category, as yet to be named.
Yes, sir?
So the same question.
Same question, thank you. Gentleman there, and then I'll come to you.
Alan Fitzsimmons. The footnote to Resolution 6A, that apparently we are now considering footnotes, says that an IAU process will be established to select a name for this category of trans-Neptunian dwarf planets. Then the next resolution we are considering seems to be defining this category. So are these two resolutions mutually exclusive?
Yes, thank you. The footnote is there in the event that 6B does not pass. So 6A establishes the category. If 6B establishes a name, then that footnote is removed.
I think he's referring. Yes.
Okay. I believe there already is a category called Plutino, which is a group of objects that are in a 3-2 resonance with Neptune, defined by orbit rather than size. Are we referring here only to Pluto's size objects or to objects that have dynamic orbital properties similar to Pluto, which is a rather specialized case? It's not just any Kuiper-Belt object.
This refers to all trans-Neptunian objects. Plutinos are a special class in the 3-2 resonance with Neptune.
Could this confuse the issue then if we have Plutinos, Plutinoids, Plutonian objects, who knows what else? I was talking once, in fact with Brian Marston, about satellites. A Ganymede, certainly by any definition, would be a planet if it were in an independent orbit in Category 1. The latest discovered rock around Jupiter is certainly a small solar system object, but we call them both satellites. Do we really need any term beyond trans-Neptunian object to describe these things?
The intention here is twofold. One is to recognize how Pluto was the precursor to an entire population. Secondly, there are dwarf planet candidates, many of them, a few dozen, beyond Neptune, that scientifically fall in the same kind of category. In other words, we ask the same types of planetary or dwarf planetary kinds of questions about them. This is the scientific reason for the grouping. It's a way of characterizing these kind of objects together.
Yes, sir?
A purely scientific question. What will you do if, in the coming years, you discover a trans-Neptunian planet which is as large, let us say, as Neptune?
We'll solve it when we get to it.
If this resolution passes, if we use the term in 6B, we would call it a Plutonian planet or a Plutonian object.
Yes, sir?
In 5A footnote,
5A?
In footnote 3 to 5A, trans-Neptunian is spelled with a capital T.
Yeah, yes.
In 6A with a small t. Is it significant?
It's not significant in a body of this size, but we will deal with it. Thank you. Yes?
Yes, I don't understand very well what you understand as trans-Neptunian object. As everybody knows, Neptune crosses the orbit of Neptune. Shouldn't be considered as a center object, and then will be the first member of a category of centers?
If it is a dwarf planet and it has a semi-major axis greater than Neptune, we would consider it trans-Neptunian, and it would go into this category.
A question for clarification. Is footnote 1 an integral part of resolution 6A, as was the case with 5A? And if so, do you mean select a name for this category, which 6B would take care of if it's passed? Or do you mean select names for objects in this category?
My understanding is if you consult the newspaper, footnote 1 is not present, and so footnote 1 should be ignored on the screen.
This footnote 1 is not there. I'm sorry, it was in an earlier version and we got our versions mixed, so apologies for that confusion. But it is not in the newspaper. Okay, are there comments? I've been asking for questions, and you're very good at disguising comments as questions, but are there now comments? Yes, please.
I'm not sure if it's a comment or a question, but when I read this the first few times, I was quite confused. I thought Pluto was one of a subclass of something that are called trans-Neptunian objects. A very minor change to the wording would just be to take out the word of and replace it, for example, by a colon. Do you understand what I'm saying? If we could
Recognised as the prototype, colon?
No. Can we put it back up again? I don't have the paper with me.
Could we have 6A back up on the screen? Yes, somebody near you give you a newspaper.
Yes, I have it here, yes.
How do you propose 6A reads?
That it be recognised as the prototype of a new category, trans-Neptunian objects. You see, when I first read it, I thought that Pluto was a subclass of trans-Neptunian objects.
Is that a misreading that many people have shared? Yes. One or two.
No, it's the prototype of a new category of trans-Neptunian objects.
What are the other categories of trans-Neptunian objects that Pluto is?
There are no other categories officially labeled by the IAU.
Okay.
Plutinos is something people refer to as small objects in a 3-2 resonance, but that is a jargon term, not an official IAU word.
Just consulting executive members on a small amendment. This is just
within.
Excuse us while we do a little bit of rapid.
Okay, there has been a suggestion that this would be clearer if it read as a prototype of a new category
within the region of
region of the trans-Neptunian objects.
You look worried. No, I hear no's.
I could take a vote. If we wish to change any of these in this way, it's a resolution of the executive, and we can ask the executive whether they wish to make this change.
Mr. President, you've hit against a tiny difference between British and American English. The colon, I think, will satisfy both speech communities. Go back to the original. I do not know how Australian English votes on this one. Canada, New Zealand, India?
The important question is, are you defining all trans-Neptunian objects as objects like Pluto, or only the dwarf planets among the trans-Neptunian objects?
Only the dwarf planets.
So there are many other trans-Neptunian objects which are not part of this category.
That is correct. The multitude, the abundance, the majority of trans-Neptunian objects are not in this category. That's why this category is interesting.
I believe the feeling of the executive will stay with the current wording.
May I make a proposal to say within the trans-Neptunian objects? Within the trans-Neptunian objects.
Start again, Gunther.
Just to say within the trans-Neptunian objects.
We are really too big a body for redrafting. Those of us on the stage cannot immediately and effectively see how to do it. John looks as if he has an idea.
I think the easiest thing to do, which I think will be clear to all English speakers and even the non-English speakers, a new category of trans-Neptunian objects.
Which is the original wording.
Yes.
I think for the time being we will continue with the wording as printed originally. Yes.
Jocelyn, I have a question and then a comment, perhaps. Does the removal of the footnote mean that it is possible that this new category would not be named if Resolution 6B is not adopted?
If it is not, if 6B is not adopted, then an IAU process will be established.
So that's the footnote. So the footnote, in effect, remains, even taking it out of the wording. So then I have a comment. We do not need any additional terminology for trans-Neptunian objects. We already have plenty. The IAU should not get into this at this point.
Can we leave the issue of the name till when we come to 6B? At the moment we are asking whether you are happy to have a new category which includes Pluto and Pluto's pals. Let me put it as loosely as that. That's what this resolution is about. Yes.
Brian Marsden, the point that bothered me a little bit, not excessively so, is the use of the word new. The prototype of a category of trans-Neptunian objects would be perfectly sufficient. There are many other categories of which Pluto is already the prototype, such as the Plutinos. This is just another category. So I think the word new is not needed.
It's redundant, yeah. Yes, sir.
David Morrison. We don't need either 6A or 6B. 6A is not giving us a name to define, and 6B suggests a name that I don't like. So why are we going down this route?
Well, let's not spend more time on this. I sense that people have aired most of the issues around it. Are you ready to vote on 6A? B is another story. Yes. Chairman.
Okay, so we take the vote on 6A, and I'll first of all just get a show yes and no, and then we'll decide if the counting is needed. Those who are in favour of Resolution 6A, which introduces this new category of trans-Neptunian objects with Pluto as a prototype. Those opposed? I think we'll have to count. Those abstaining? Okay, we'll have to take a count on this one. Are you ready, Virginia?
Again, please, if you are voting in favor of 6A, stand with your little yellow card in front of your heart. And my 5 tellers will again go down the rows. Your row will be counted from one side only, so keep an eye out for your teller, and when he, she, or it has passed, sit down. Mr. President, we've nearly forgotten whether those were the yes or no votes, but there were 237 of them.
Michael.
237 yes votes. Those who are opposed to Resolution 6A.
Patiently for your teller to pass your row. I hesitate to point out to the gentleman that the young ladies are quite attractive.
Yes.
Mr. President, we report 157 votes against. And you can do abstain if you want.
We have to.
You have.
The statutes describe the process quite clearly. It is the majority of those present and voting. So those abstaining, we need to count if it's a significant number. Those who are abstaining, I think we better count them. Okay, we have 237 in favor of Resolution 6A, 157 opposed, 17 abstaining, so the motion is carried. I have a correction to the number of abstentions, which is 30. The conclusion is the same.
This finally brings us to Resolution 6B. I expect we need our coffee break. I think this is a relatively simple issue. You like the name or you don't. I'm going to ask Richard Bindel to introduce the motion and then ask that we move straight to the vote.
Resolution 6B proposes to call this group Plutonian objects. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary provides us with a very appropriate definition. Plutonian pronunciation, plutonian, adjective, often capitalized, of, relating to, or characteristic of Pluto or the lower world.
Okay, I suggest we just take a straight vote on this. If we have a name, then of course that clarifies things for a quick moving forward.
Mr. President, if I may.
Then the IAU, I need to explain to you, the IAU executive will set up the group that's necessary to start a process to find a name.
And just one comment on settling the name. We had previously proposed an alternate name which geologists want to keep to themselves.
So we will take a vote on Resolution 6B, which names the category which we have just resolved for in 6A to be Plutonian objects. Those in favor of the word Plutonian objects. Again, I'll do a quick check. Those opposed? Those abstaining? We have to count. Those in favor?
Mr. President, we report 183 votes in favor. If I've understood you, that passing requires a majority of those present and voting, we can say no now, unless a large number of people have resigned their IAU memberships in the last 15 minutes.
I would like to ask Chris to make a clarification.
There is a clarification from Robert's Rules of Order that actually an abstention means that you are not voting at all. You withdraw yourself from the voting process. So actually it doesn't count in the 2/3.
Which means we have to
It's a simple majority of the in favour or the not in favour.
Okay, we need the noes to stand up.
Are those who are opposed to the use of this name?
I don't, but we do have an instance in Britain where that was an issue.
Mr. President, you're going to love this. We report 186 votes against.
And unfortunately, if we recount, we will almost certainly get different numbers because people aren't always sure when they should sit down. And several of us, I believe, have died in situ.
I think on the basis of that count, excluding there is no majority for yes, certainly not a clear one, unless anybody wanted a recount, which we can do, of course, if you request it. Those who would want a recount, those against?
If you want a recount, we're sending you to Florida.
Member of the Catholic.
I don't know if we go or not for recount. I just wanted to say we have agreed on Resolution 6A. We have defined a new category. And as we all agree, we're also doing this to try to dialogue with the public. And we will look a little bit stupid if we said we define a new category, but we don't know how to call it. And we have discussed, as you know, many times, and of course in public and privately, how can we call them, and it's very difficult to come with a perfect word. And meanwhile, to leave it sort of anonymous, you know, it's a new category, but we're incapable of assigning a name to it, doesn't look very, very clear. So, Plutonian object, if you remember, when we had this meeting with all of you to try to decide in which direction was proposed there, and it seemed in this group to name that actually some of you proposed, and this is why we are proposing this one. And I think it would really close the process if we could finish with this, and otherwise we are really leaving unfinished business.
Let me ask if, having heard from your soon-to-be president, there are, shall we say, 6 people who voted no who might be willing to change their minds. If so, just hold up your card.
No, I think we would have to have an indication by all present whether they wish a recount. So this would be a vote for a recount. So if that is the only way to do it. And then we'd have to count those in favour of a recount and those who are not in favour of a recount and find out whether we should have a recount.
Well, I think the situation is clear. If there is a majority who would want a recount, then we will ask by show of yellow cards how many people would like a recount, taking into account additional comments which have been made. Those who would like a recount.
Sir, there cannot be a recount because we don't have any record of it. It's a re-poll. It can't be recount because we haven't kept record of voting.
You are correct. It is a revote. Those in favour of a revote? Those against? I think this is against the revote. So I declare then that we do not have a majority in favour of now calling this Plutonian objects. However, let me remind you that the executive of the IAU can set up a nomenclature group and can decide on a name outside of the General Assembly. Had we been able to achieve this here, it would have been a simple process, very fast. So now we will have a slightly longer procedure while the IAU sets up the process to get a name for these objects.
May I just say one thing further? Please don't leave this instant. There's one more very brief but very important item of business, not to do with resolutions. But as the lucky member of Resolutions Committee who got to facilitate this discussion, may I thank you in a personal capacity for your excellent discipline, your very constructive comments, and your help all through this process. Thank you very much.
Could I now have, in one of the important functions the executive has during a General Assembly is to look at the proposals made by countries offering to host future General Assemblies. And so just before the coffee break, I would like to announce the result of the executive's deliberation on the choice of the 28th General Assembly. We had excellent proposals from France, Greece, Germany, and China. The executive has selected one of those four, but the executive, in a slight change of the normal procedure, has selected a second country to keep in reserve in case any situation arises where that would be necessary. You may recall that in the past it has been necessary to have such a reserve. We will announce now our selection for the hosts for the 28th General Assembly. So if you can turn on either the item 11 PowerPoint or the screen. And I would like to announce that Beijing will host the 28th General Assembly.